are back, and we have a spirited discussion going, and we were talking during the break, and you had the best question ever. So, Jay, for Zena, it's amazing how things tie in together. Holidays, gifting, dementia, it's all senior questions. You had a great question for Zena.
Well, the question was this: if you have a caregiver that comes into a home and someone has dementia, how do you deal with that dementia from day to day? Because they may not recognize the caregiver from day to day. So how do you face that?
Well, with dementia is a long process, you know. So the caregiver has to pay close attention to the issues, and if the caregiver starts noticing small things, even the smallest thing, and I always tell the caregivers, it doesn't matter what the change is. If you see a change, I want you to tell me. I want you to write it down, because then what we do is we come in and me and my mother, we come in and we assess the situation to see how much it progressed, if they're capable of still living, because a lot of people with dementia do live alone, still capable of living alone. If we have to we usually talk to the family. It kind of is it's a constant, ongoing thing. A lot of stages.
Do you, when you come in every day, do you say, hi, I'm Zena, or hi, so-and-so, Zena here, so that they kind of recognize? Do you give them cues so they know who you are when you come in? Or
well, you're talking. The dementia you're talking about is very far advanced.
Okay.
So a lot of times you're meeting people who, especially when you just start to have people, the kids calling you, telling you, my mom's starting to, have a little dementia. It's the beginning stages. So it's kind of a long process. It doesn't, I mean, there are people that you go in and usually they're in homes where the ones that are full-blown dementia or Alzheimer's, but on a general basis, it's kind of a process. You kind of watch it happen as it goes on. You just you're just cautious about it and make sure that they're comfortable, make sure the parent, everybody has to know everything,
And one thing that's really good about those circumstances is, under South Carolina law, someone with dementia can certainly have lucid periods where they're completely conscious and aware of what's going on, what they want to do with their assets. So just because someone has dementia does not mean it's 24 hours, 7 days a week. And so if they are with an estate planning attorney during lucid periods, and sometimes that depends on their medication, the time of day, when their brain is not working as well, they can do things that other people can do 24 hours a day. But it's important that they have those lucid periods, so don't lose hope just because someone's in the beginning stages of dementia that they can no longer do any estate planning or gifting, because they can.
Is fear a factor? Do people get afraid to come in to an estate planner for fear that their estates aren't big enough or that they've been doing things wrong? How do you convince someone that to be proactive, I guess, is the real question.
That's a great question. People are very fearful. First of all, it's facing death or disability, and no one wants to do that usually. And so that's a hard fear to overcome. But during the holidays, as people are with family and friends, they need to think about those things and think about the future of their family and their friends and what they want to leave behind for their legacy. So it's a tough thing to do, but they need to come to terms with that, because none of us know the day or time that we won't be around anymore.
No, and it's a great point, because what you're saying, I know we recognize it a lot.
Okay.
When you do start seeing those signs, because we mentioned there's a lot of stages. I mean, Alzheimer's is a whole different level of dementia there. That when you do, now's the time that the family needs to come together and sit down with an estate planner, when everybody has a part in the say.
I was just going to say, maybe that brings up another question for everyone. We're talking about a family issue here, not just a one single person.
Exactly.
How does that work? How do you recommend? Do my mom and dad come in with the kids? Do you, I mean, how does all that work?
Typically,
for everybody.
Yeah, you would want to start with the actual family themselves. I mean, the immediate family, meaning the kids too. I mean, they needed to be brought into it, because as you know, the dynamics between siblings, and there's a lot of issues, and you want to get everybody, and if you have one person that seems to kind of lead the rest of the children, kind of let them take the lead, if you will, with mom or dad, and start those conversations. But the whole family at some point needs to get involved with that.
From the estate, it's from the estate planning. How does that work?
It's much different.
Okay.
And the reason is, typically
I
would represent what we would call the principal. In other words, the main character, the person that may be facing older age and disability and
I like
potential
it, the main
death.
character.
And so The principal is who normally we would represent because it would be their estate we would be dealing with.
Okay.
And the trouble we would run across with family members is there's what's called undue influence.
Okay.
And so we don't want a family member sitting there, and it happens to be sometimes one child,
right,
and there may be three other children. And so we wouldn't have someone else in the room with us as we discuss with the principal, what do you want to do with your estate? Because it's not about what the children want done with the estate.
And they probably want
it's about
something different.
Sure.
But you do need the children
estate.
to help a lot of times influence the parents to go.
It's really sort of a slippery slope kind of thing. I mean, it can be a little...
Sure. Well, then I encourage the principal to talk to the children as much as they want to about whatever we discussed and what the plans are. But it's done separately because you don't want one child. I had a call recently that said, hey, I'm a child, I want to bring in my parent for the consultation, etc. I said, well, that's fine. Let me just tell you, you won't be in the room with us as we discuss that person's estate plan, your parent estate plan, because otherwise you may be effectively cut out of the will because of your presence. Because if you're there, under South Carolina law, it could be construed as undue influence. And the maximum, let me give you an example, is if there's two children and one child brings in a parent and they sit in the room and the parent says, I want to leave everything to this child right here.
Okay.
And I have no separate conversation with the parent about that. And they leave everything to one child and exclude the other. Under South Carolina law, that child would only get at the maximum, the amount that they would have gotten without the will.
Oh, gosh.
Because even though they said 100% to that child, under South Carolina law says you can't have a child sitting beside you in the room telling them you're leaving 100% to them and leaving the other child out, and then that child get 100%.
And I know we have to take a break in a second, but is that what vulnerable adult means? Can we talk about that when we come back?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
We need to take a break. We'll be right. Stay with us.